Good evening, everyone. I'll welcome you to the Tuesday, November 11th, 2025 North Liberty City Council meeting. Tracy, could I have roll call, please?
Leibel.
Here.
Park.
Here.
Sittig.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Wason.
Here.
Thank you. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. I don't think there are any changes. Could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Smith. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is set. Item 4 is our consent agenda. Any questions about that? Could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Second. By Park, seconded by Leibold. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Item 5 is public comment. This is a time for anyone in the audience wishing to make comment on an item that is not already reserved for public comment. Let us know. Seeing none, I will close the public comment and move on to item 6. Josiah, this is our engineer's report.
Thanks, Mayor. It just closed on me, so I'm waiting for it to.
I love technology sometimes.
Okay, let's be quick. Got several projects in the design phase. Most recent, the trail improvements project. The survey work is complete for the Penn Street and Forever Green Road sections. And preliminary design work is actually underway this week. Our first submittal is a 50% set in December. So that project is planned for bidding in February. Construction next year. Last meeting, we went through the proposal for the Cherry Street Firehouse. The schematic design will get started this month with meetings with various city staff and just to look at the project, look at the schedule, look at the construction manager selection process, just kind of give an overview of where we're going to go with that design and project schedule. Forever Green Road and Jasper improvements, that's the roundabout for construction next year. The final review documents are complete and submitted to city staff, and we actually have a review meeting scheduled tomorrow to go through that. Take that feedback, wrap everything up. The project is planned to go out to bid in December, and we're looking at receiving bids in January for that project. One more, the splash pad. Our final design development review is complete. We've actually sent that out to a third party to get construction pricing to see where we're at on that. That will happen this month, and then we'll get back together with city staff, review the costs, make sure we're good, we have the right direction where we're going with the design, and then get it ready for bidding documents. That's planned for bidding next February. Construction, the only update I have on that is North Liberty Road Trail. The contractor completed all their required punch list items, and we've actually started coordinating with the DOT on the audit process. That's a required DOT step. So a lot of forms and paperwork to get together, so we've started on that as well. That's all I've got, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. When Jasper and Forever Green Road is reconstructed, will that all be done next year? Or will it leak over into 2027?
It usually does, but substantial completion next year to have all the paving and the roads open.
Okay.
But there's usually seeding and restoration work. Yeah.
Okay. Any questions for Josiah? All right. Ryan, I'll move it on to you, City Administrator.
Okay, thank you. Just a few things from me this evening. As you're all well aware, the local option sales tax referendum passed last week overwhelmingly. So just for the public's information, the tax actually won't go into effect now until July 1, and then for businesses out there, you'll be receiving information from the state on how to make that transition. So just a reminder really to those watching in the public that that will change, but not until July 1. This time of year, usually in November or early December, the council has a schedule some time to talk about the upcoming budget, the FY27 budget. We usually entitle that budget framework and guidance. We're tentatively planning for the 25th, so the next council meeting, to have that discussion. Although if we have a fuller agenda, we might push it to that first meeting in December. But either this meeting or the next, or excuse me, this upcoming meeting, the 25th, or December 9th is when we'll have that discussion. And then lastly, again, a scheduling note. We usually just have one city council meeting in December. So that will be our plan again this year. Again, unless some unforeseen circumstances pop up, we'll plan on having that one meeting on December 9th and then not meeting again until that second Tuesday in July, or excuse me, January. Pardon me.
That'd be a long stretch.
That would be a long stretch. And that's all I have tonight, Mayor, unless there are any questions from the group.
Thanks, Ryan. Are there any questions for Ryan?
Just one about the lost, Ryan. It goes into effect July 1. I'm just curious when the city starts to receive revenue from that.
Is it a monthly remittance, do you know?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know if
either
it'll
monthly
be
or quarterly.
Monthly or quarterly.
So it would be essentially immediate.
Certainly within the first quarter, we'll
Yeah,
start receiving
okay.
some funding. Yeah.
We wouldn't have to wait until the next fiscal year.
No.
Anything else? All right. Thank you, sir. Move on to Mayor's report. I just did a number of housekeeping things. First of all, Brian, thanks for covering for me last meeting. Haven't had you do that for a while, but I really appreciate that. But I needed to be with my family after that. And congrats on the reelection, being out there. We'll have a new council member also joining us in January. Tanya was elected. And for those of you that took the time to go out there and vote, I appreciate you making that effort and for supporting that local option sales tax. It is an important piece of future revenue that this city will have an option to use and to go to a good purpose. And Eric will celebrate, or not, more in the next couple of meetings, but I wanted to thank you for your time up here, and we'll more formally recognize that here in the next couple of meetings. Some things that I've been a part of over the last couple of weeks, it's actually been about a month. Some of you were there already for some of these things, but just last week we had a joint entities meeting, or actually it's been a couple of weeks ago. It is something that is held quarterly. And if you haven't had a chance to be at one of these, I would encourage you to try to do so. They're a Monday. They're 4:30 in the afternoon. Sometimes doesn't work for work schedules. It's a great way to meet other elected people in the county, school board members, if you haven't had a chance to do that. So there were only a couple of us there. I think it was just me and Ryan. You were there as well. No, not at this last one. You're usually a regular attendee for those things. So if you guys can work that into a schedule sometime, be on the lookout for those emails as they come out. Was at that Hy-Vee Center ribbon cutting with all of you since then, and we've had a lot of events out there. If anyone has had a chance to be a part of that or step out there to see that, it's a beautiful facility, and we'll host generations to come of events out there. So that's a great place. Last week, I was part of Iowa League of Cities Mayors Association webinar talking about the upcoming legislative session as well. Some of the things that the league has been working on. More timely, though, is the new training for open meeting laws that newly elected members of city councils will need to be doing. It'll be part of their MLA. And for anyone that we add to our boards or commissions, they'll also need to be making sure that they go through that training. And we talked about notifications going out for public meetings, and also that taxpayer notification form that the state started issuing a couple of years ago. They're hoping to make some, let's say, some modifications to that process. In a couple of weeks, I'll be attending what will be my last ECI COG meeting, and I'm the representative for the Johnson County Metropolitan Planning Organization for that. I did that for 2 years. It's a seat that anyone from the MPO or someone from the MPO was assigned to for 1 year, but I volunteered to do it for 2 because some consistency is really helpful in that. Speaking of the MPO, we'll be hosting it tomorrow night here again at 4:30. That's an every other month meeting. if it works in your schedules on a Wednesday, it's always at 4:30. It rotates on sites, but tomorrow night it'll be here at City Council chambers, and anyone is welcome to come. It's a great way to see how we plan for roads and trails, specifically well in advance, years and years in advance is the biggest thing that we do. On that note, I'm going to miss Eric in that capacity. Brian and I sit there officially, but Eric has backed either of us up quite a bit in his 4 years. So if any of you others might want to be there, at least informally, it would be great to see. And then the last thing is that I was just at the Coffee Connection on Friday out at Corda Credit Union. I didn't get a chance to go to that ribbon cutting, so I wanted to make sure that I was there for that connection, and it's a beautiful facility, and talking to some folks. Lastly, I wanted to recognize Veterans Day. We don't get the opportunity to hold a city council meeting on that actual day, and I really wanted to say how much we should be honoring that courage and the commitment of all of those that sacrifice for us, and that are veterans, that were veterans with us. Their services have led to safeguards that we have throughout our country, and also have been foundational for the freedoms that we have. So to all of you and your families that wore that uniform and supported them, I wholeheartedly thank you for that, and we're just fortunate enough to get to do that today on Veterans Day. With that, I'll move on to council reports, and this is an opportunity for our council members to let the public know what they are a part of doing on behalf of the city when they're not here at a city council meeting. I'll open the floor to you guys.
I was at the EMA meeting last week, and so we did approve the letting of the bids for the storage building, which will be in Tiffin. They hope to have them all back in a couple weeks, and hopefully let that in December. And then speaking about the joint entity meeting, the host was Iowa City, and they taped that, and I believe they have it on their website now that people want to go and check that out. There was actually quite a bit of good discussion there. So
That's a good point. Good point.
Mayor, I attended a number of events promoting Lost, and I just want to thank a number of people. There were, I'm not going to be able to thank everyone, but the ones at the top, Nancy Bird, Mackenzie DeRue, Katie Gerlach, the staff at Think Iowa City, Ashley and Tony for being our community champions, and then obviously all the residents in North Liberty. Thank you for turning out for the vote. Thank you for supporting this effort. And we will spend those funds wisely and put it to work for you. So we appreciate the vote of confidence with that Lost, and we're joining 93 other communities in the state of Iowa in doing that. So thank you.
I don't think I have anything.
Attended the Community Foundation of Johnson County grant rewarding event at the Hy-Vee Centennial Center. That organization has granted more than $34 million to the community, which is amazing. So that was awesome to see the place in action, and the chairs are really comfortable, so that's a plus. But seeing all the people in there, it was great. As a board member of the Iowa City Area Sports Commission, the Palestra will be hosting some fun events coming up in March that include the Women's Club Nationals, which will be on March 5th, and then the U17 Pan Am qualifiers, which welcomes 400 to 500 wrestlers all right here to North Liberty. So I was pretty excited about that, and all their guests that are there to watch them. I also attended Coffee Connections. The mayor did a great job giving updates on the city. If I could say congratulations to the library on being selected as one of 10 libraries nationwide to participate in the Teen Accelerator for Libraries grant program. If you have a chance, you can look at our materials for the meeting. It explains that, and it's a pretty cool situation there. And then also, again, just thanking everyone for the support for passing the local option sales tax. You're going to see a lot of good things coming from that. So thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just would echo your comments, especially regarding veterans. Just a heartfelt thank you for your efforts, your service. It's not lost on me the sacrifice that goes through from all of our veterans. So I just want to reiterate that. A couple of things just from my seat. Paul actually scheduled a lunch today, and we were able to join a few members of the Greater Iowa City on all things kind of growth-related, growth initiatives regarding the city of North Liberty. So it was very good meeting. I think there's a couple clear takeaways that we had from that. Ryan, one of them we'll have to talk with you about, maybe getting a working group established, a little bit more regular connection and touch point with those folks. I will take this opportunity to remind folks as the holidays approach, and with all of the, with everything going on within our country, if you have an opportunity to, reach out or consider donating, helping those in need, now is a really opportune time to do that, whether it be at the North Liberty Food Pantry, whether it be through your organization. I see a couple of Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts out here. There's no shortage of opportunities to give back, and so I just encourage folks to do that. And maybe Ryan or Nick, if he's out there, maybe we can get some additional information on our website just on where folks can go to do that. But I think that's an important thing to recognize, especially as we get towards Thanksgiving and the Christmas holiday season. And then to Paul's point, just a few congratulations. First is the Community Foundation of Johnson County. They celebrated their 25-year anniversary. I think it was a week or two ago. Wasn't able to attend the event, but heard it was really good things. So wanted to say congratulations to those folks. And then, Mayor, wouldn't be doing my job unless I recognize and say congratulations to Coach Chandler and the Liberty football team. It is quite an accomplishment to have our community represented for the second year in a row at the semifinals for the state football playoffs. So they play Friday night at 7 o'clock for those that are interested in going. My ask would be the last one out of town, please shut off the lights. So that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'll move to item 10, which is the Urban Central District Land Use Map Amendment and Rezoning. Item 8 will be the public hearing. There's a number of you in the audience that we're here for the planning and zoning meeting, and I'm glad that you are back. Our council and myself had a chance to review that meeting and all that information and what was in our packet as well. I do run this meeting a little bit differently than the planning and zoning meeting, and I've had a chance to talk to a few of you already. We will limit public comment to 5 minutes because a lot of this information is already known and that meeting existed. And I will just ask if your comments in support do get to be repetitive, that you consider not for brevity, just so that we can keep this meeting moving along as well. And with that, I will open up the public hearing.
Mayor, did you mean, 5 minutes per person or 5 minutes total?
Per person. Thanks for clarifying.
Hello, my name is Alan Shaw. Neighbor, obviously a town person here in North Liberty, and I just live about a block away from that proposal. I just wanted to say that I encourage the council and the city to actually consider things that are actually in support of the city and the people that want to have here. Please really consider the things that we have a problem against. And this is probably one of those things. I want to make my main point, stated throughout this whole entire case, is that the zoning change does not comply with the City of North Liberty's 2023 comprehensive plan. I want to make that very clear. It does not comply. The number one business deal that has already been made and incurred in the City of North Liberty and the developer. Back in the CBJ, actually told that this has actually already been a deal between the city and the developer. In the Good Neighbor meeting that we had on July the 24th, 2025, I want to say that the city adopted development application process states that potential rezoning applications and preliminary plat application requires that a Good Neighbor meeting be held prior to submission of those applications. That did not occur, that occurred after the fact. The question that is asked from the audience and then answered by the city planner, Mr. Rusnak, that he stated that the city has in fact already signed a deal with a developer. And the developer, Line Development, Brandon Platt, also further went on to order and cover that these $20 million deal with the city have been, in order for it to be paid back in the timing of the agreement, that the only way for him to recoup the money is to have this high-density apartment paying rental place in this facility. So that is obviously also the only thing that the city is considering at this time to put in that place. It's not about like what works, what makes any difference to that area. In the zoning and replanning meeting on October the 7th, the meeting, of the request of the UCD Holdings to a future land use from Flex to UHI, I want to make it stated that it looked like in the packet that was provided to the city council, to the zoning and planning committee, that there was a huge effort to discount every single input that the city has received from the concerned citizens. To further point out that it was also clearly steered that the committee had to vote positively for the improper rezoning of this. I think that the committee was actually led to that decision based upon a lot of package that just says discounting everything that people said. The fourth and final thing I want to say, that the city made a deal with the developer contradicts the city's adopted plan in 2023. In page 87 of the adopted plan, the initial notes say that the future land map identifies Cherry Street and Old Town as a special policy area because of their unique characteristics than all other areas of North Liberty. It was identified. Notes 5 and 6 in that same area go on to say that in order to connect the two neighborhoods, which is the Green Meadow Apartments and Cherry Court Complex with that of Old Town, states this very specific area should be townhomes or small lot residential or a housing variety to create the connection between the two neighborhoods. Early on in that same report, page 50, underneath form and feature, development should avoid the creation of isolated multifamily development in edges of UHI residential developments. They should transition to lower density users as a buffer from industrial uses through design. The proposed monstrosity would be a giant wall of a housing complex that will completely remove the charm and the feel of the only place in North Liberty that we call Old Town. In summary, the City of North Liberty has spent lots of time trying to prove why a CU-C3 zoning is okay for this area. I believe the reason is because this deal has already been made. The line development back in 2025. The city is not making a way, they're trying to plow away through all the input from the neighbors and the concerned citizens. City planning proposed that the planning not be allowed. The city, seems like it's on an outright campaign to disregard the people's input, a save face kind of campaign in order to contradict the points that the city and the personnel have made. We do not want this thing at this location. There probably wasn't a lot of contradiction to the Emery Pond or whatever's going on in Dubuque Street by Watt. I said, how about when the old farm on Scales Bend Road was proposed to a very similar kind of thing? And there are outcries from the city and you guys, and it filled these city councils. Was that because the deal was only proposed and it wasn't a cart before the horse kind of yet deal? Or was it because maybe that neighborhood is actually closer to some of the people that are on council right now? Maybe it was that maybe that place hits a little bit too close to your home and that takes more interest than this, which is our home. This proposal is a profit over people development, and the city has gone a little bit out of their way to discount the people's voices. The neighbors and the personnel who all directly impact giving you their input, it has all been against a specific project that's going in. The petition that's online right now has 223 votes to say, I do not want this in that area. We, the citizens of North Liberty, should be on notice that our local government is much closer, should have a little bit closer of oversight if they are willing to grant millions of dollars to a developer without any real due diligence and complete disregard to the people's voices. I am tired of the city trying to provide something that the developer has proposed versus what the city plan has actually laid out. That exactly should be it. The city should plan and the developer should adapt to that plan.
Alan,
I'm going to end with this.
Could I ask you just to wrap it up?
Yep.
I think you might have.
And with this, the zoning change does not comply with the City of North Liberty's 2023 comprehensive plan. I'm going to end there.
Thank you. And I would like to limit that. We're not at a sporting event, so let's please limit that. Thank you. Who's next?
I didn't bring any notes this time. Basically, I think that one of the most important things is it really doesn't comply. I think that I've already handed out my proposal and my thoughts on this. But I think one of the things that is possibly available to us is I see the University of Iowa frequently assists our city by giving opinions and discussing whether or not something can change. You know what I mean? They did a traffic study. They've done things like that. Perhaps the department at the University of Iowa might give you a really unbiased opinion on whether or not this complies. The other thing is, as he pointed out, I was under the impression that the city cannot pass a zoning unless the comprehensive plan is first changed. Now, I'm not sure if I read that correctly, but that's the way I read it. And I think that this, as I'm sure you're going to hear from absolutely everyone, this doesn't comply. So that's another thing. Also, the only other thing that left me questioning was the one point that so many of these big operations have been asked to create these traffic studies to prove that they are compliant and that they are really bringing in and that there are no objections in place. So I'm just thinking that maybe this needs to be considered more carefully and over more time. But that's just my personal opinion, and I appreciate all of you gentlemen accepting my previous notes and copies. I really can't tell you how encouraged I was that you were willing to at least accept and look over them. So thank you very much for your service. And one other thing, I want to congratulate Mayor Hoffman for winning the vote. I don't think anybody mentioned that, and I think that it's only fair that, we all, acknowledge that. But anyway, thank you so much, and I'm sure somebody else has something to say. So, anybody else?
Thank you, Artie.
Hello, I'm Karen Johnson. I'm here because I live in the older part of town and I love it there. I've lived there a long time and it's home to me, and I'm only here because I really care about that area. I don't think this zoning change should be contemplated in isolation from the fact of all the residential zones that are around it. They may not all be single family, they may be multifamily, but still they're residential and they comply with residential rules. This CUC3 does not comply with normal rules that are found all through our town. Right now, there's a plan to put 7 of these 5-story buildings in, because I'm also counting the one that you've already approved that's on the other parcel. So that provides 7 of these giant buildings that contain 417 units on slightly more than 3 city blocks. This type of density, without providing some sort of lower density transitional housing along Zeller and Cherry, simply does not fit with the community. I'd like you to carefully consider this. Our town is a suburban town. We don't have a downtown. Even if they call it downtown, it's not. What's a downtown? A downtown is like what's in Iowa City and Cedar Rapids. It's where there's a dense historic mix of local shops and businesses. This type of density should not be located in only one area of our town, because we do not have the supporting local shops and businesses that are high density and located in one area. Our things are located along, our commercial districts are located along 965 and Penn Street, not in one consolidated historic downtown district. So when people on the surveys that are brought up mention that they want to live in, or they think the town needs more of a downtown, what are they talking about? They're talking about a cute downtown. They're talking about downtowns like in Mount Vernon, Decorah, a place that they can go shop and eat at restaurants. They're not talking about an area of 6 to 7 high-density, tall apartments associated with all of the parking that's needed. Some people are happy to live in a bustling, urban environment. They seek it out. They go there. While some people prefer the peace and quiet of a small town. I would suggest that the majority of people that live in North Liberty live here because they like the less dense environment and they have purposely sought it out. So as you proceed with consideration of this CUC3 zoning for this parcel, I want to draw your attention to information that is provided showing the setbacks. Now, there's one setback on here that keeps being skipped over and really isn't brought out, and that is the 10-foot required setback on the front where it faces streets. Well, what streets are we talking about? What streets are in this parcel of land? The only streets are actually outside of the parcel. They're Zeller and Cherry. I think that this same setbacks that we require in every other part of town, whether it's residential or commercial, is 25 feet. Why should this be any different as it's jutting out into districts that are residential, commercial, and all have 25-foot setbacks? Why is this important? Because the overall goal of this development should be sure that it is compatible with the surrounding residential character and that it protects the public health, safety, and general welfare of the residents and neighborhoods that already exist. It would create a visual, consistent, attractive, and orderly streetscape. It would create a space for landscaping, lessen the impact of such a large structure on the area, and maintain neighborhood character. It would ensure that adequate, open, green space is maintained between the street and the large buildings. So I would even further suggest and urge that the city work with the developer and the architects to consider the possibility of building townhouses, row houses, or smaller apartment units along the existing street to more or less hide the giant buildings that are being proposed for this piece of land. There are many reasons why this is a common urban strategy. This approach would balance the desire that the city has to make this a dense, walkable housing area while preserving the residential scale and design. This would offer a gradual transition from the streetscape to the higher density living and provide more diversity of housing within this parcel. You can find examples of this in North Liberty. For example, Creekside, across from Hy-Vee, has townhouses on two sides.
Karen, I'll also ask if you can just wrap this up for us.
Oh, it's not. It's hard.
I know it
because
is.
I really want to get this all out.
I know.
These townhouses are important because there's dense apartments behind it. There's also another place in Ames that just did a 10-acre redevelopment. This is townhouses. This has apartments behind it. You could also put in a 3-story building that's down in Tiffin. This would also be more appropriate along Zeller and Cherry than the giant apartment buildings being proposed. So let's see, what can I wrap up if I have to wrap up? So perhaps the CUC3 zoning made sense in early discussions. Maybe there was a different vision for this piece of land. But it is clear now that the only intent is to make it a dense apartment complex. Maybe a residential zoning of the property would be more appropriate, since that's the intended use of the land. Since the city is so financially involved with this parcel, perhaps the city needs to provide further financial incentive to the developer to provide some of this missing middle housing, townhomes, condos, something different along the streets. It's going to be really nice out Friday and Saturday, so I encourage each and every one of you to take a walk, go down, walk Cherry, walk Stewart, walk Zeller, and take a good look at what would really be the best looking thing for the city to put along those streets. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen.
Hi, my name is Jenny Nicholas. I live on Parkview. I am literally within sight of where this proposed development is, and I'm here to echo most of the first speaker's points. This is a horrible idea. There is no support. There's not going to be room for any of the vehicles. It's already dangerous. I don't know if many of you live anywhere near there. Try walking that. Go down that way, park somewhere on a side street at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday, and try crossing the road on the bike path. You're going to get hit. There are cars, they're going 35 mile an hour. There's bumper to bumper traffic. Nobody's looking where they're going. You have Garner Elementary, just a block and a half away. There are kids all the time, every morning, every afternoon, walking back and forth, crossing that street on the side streets. They're not all using the bike path. It's not safe. You're going to add what I think the estimate was 600 new vehicles that are going to be all parking within that single area. Your city plan says you should have accessible developments. You're supposed to have multiple access points. You're not supposed to have things that are cut off with only one entrance for just this kind of reason. This is only going to have 2 access points. I don't see a way you can put a bridge over the railroad tracks. I don't see a way you can connect, traffic across the creek to get out to 965. How are we going to be able to get that many vehicles in and out safely on those streets? Are you putting in stoplights? Putting in stop signs? Putting in crosswalk lights? Because you're going to have bumper to bumper to bumper traffic for hours every morning, every afternoon. I've heard answers that say, from folks here that I've overheard that have said, well, just add extra time to your commute, leave earlier. That tells me you don't live anywhere around there. You don't consider all the implications of something like that. I live along the creek. That floods every time we get a hard rain. It ends up flooding over the bike path. I've seen parents walk their kids, little kids, through flood water up to their knees because they're going for a walk and they don't know or they don't care about the dangers of it. That's not safe. You put that much pavement and that many buildings there. I don't care what that developer tries. They can put bioswales, they can put whatever they want. You're going to dump a lot more water into that creek. How are you going to manage that? Are you going to raise the bike path? You're going to rip out the underpass that it goes under the rock section by the bridge, by the railroad tracks to widen that so it stops flooding as much? What are you going to do about the pollution, the runoff, the pet waste, the dumpsters? There's so much that's going to need to go in there. And things like safety. I also overheard in the last meeting that we don't have fire trucks that can even access those buildings. What's the plan for that? God forbid there's a fire. Where are all those people going to go? Where can they evacuate to when they're on 2 single-lane, one-way streets? None of that seems supportable to me. Most of it seems to violate your city ordinance, the city plan. Where was the planning ahead of time? There's supposed to be a transportation improvement plan. There's supposed to be, design that takes into account the existing infrastructure. This is also right along one of the major floodplains along Muddy Creek. That's your own plan says it's supposed to be protected from development. All of that seems to have been ignored here. One of the first tenants also said transparency. I live a block away from this. Why did I only hear about this after the deal had already been signed through the CCJ article? Where was the plan? Where was the input on what should go there? Residents didn't get to input. You didn't talk to anybody. Or if you did, it clearly didn't get to everybody because myself and a few of my other friends, we live right there. Why was this agreed to without any discussion of whether that's something that should go there? It really does seem like somebody had, the developer had a plan. They know what they want to do because it's going to make them a lot of money. That doesn't mean you should do it. I really urge you to think about it. Think about if that were going in one of your neighborhoods when there's only one access point. What's that going to do to your kids' safety? To your safety, walking your dog across the street? It's not going to be fun for those of us that live there. And I really urge you to reconsider. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny.
Hi, Michelle King. I live on Parkview. I'm actually a neighbor with Jenny, and Jenny's one of the most informed persons I know about the city and tells me most of the time what's going on. I actually had to tell her this time, which is I'm a busy person. I am I'm Facebook, I'm all that stuff too, but I did not see any notices until after this deal was broken as well. I actually had to tell Jenny about it. So that kind of tells me how bad of a job you guys did about getting this out into the community to get actual input from people in the area until after it was done. I agree with everyone up here. The infrastructure is not there, especially on Zeller when it's crowded by everyone's private property. You guys can't make that bigger. You're not going to have the lanes. You're going to have, I think Ryan was saying last time, 1.5 cars is what they were planning for for this place. You have 364 units going in. What families or renters have 1.5 cars? Me and my husband, 2 cars. Let's see. I'm trying to think as to how much my nephews make at this point. At 21 years old, they are not able to afford a part at one of these houses by themselves. They're going to have roommates. Roommates are going to have cars. I think 700 is a general idea as to how many cars are going to be in here, and you're splitting that between Cherry Street and Zeller. Every day between 7:30 and about 8 o'clock, and then every evening between 2:50 and 3:30, Garner Elementary gets out. The only access points to Garner Elementary are there on South Stewart, and over on Front Street. South Stewart, the only way you can get onto Front Street to go north is you can't from Garner when you drop off kids. You have to go back to South Stewart. There is no exit unless you go to the south on Front. You have to come back out, so we have more traffic there than you guys realize. Ryan did say last 2 meetings ago, well, just leave earlier. Well, the school district says you can't drop off your kids unless you're between 7:30 and 7:50 in the morning. So am I supposed to leave my house and be at school at 7:30 in the morning and wait there every morning? Even probably before that, because traffic has already started at that point. And then I'm going to have to try to make sure, and if I don't get them there in those specific times, I'm going to have the district attorney's offices probably calling me going, hey, why is your kid not showing up on time? Well, because I have 700 more cars trying to get their way in and out of Zeller Street. You can put the stop lines and stuff on Cherries, and that's great, but you know exactly what they're going to do is they're going to go right to Zeller, because no one wants to stop at a stoplight and wait patiently. People are talking about putting in housing, duplexes, all that. Has anyone ever thought about redoing the rec center in this area? I don't know what the plans are for the rec center. I will tell you that. I know that it was built in 2000 when there was only 5,000 people, or the population of the city was 5,000. We have tripled that, and no one has really, I haven't seen any plans for that going. Okay, you guys can't comment. I go to the pool every summer, and it is closed down early because water is fogged over with body oils because we have too many people in that little area. This would be a great opportunity to put a new rec center in there. It's other plans besides this monstrosity that you guys are thinking about putting in. Something else would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. Does anyone else have comments? Okay. Thank you all very much for spending time and making your voices heard. I will close the public hearing, and I'll move Russ to staff and commission recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oh boy, here we go. Okay, so I just want to show you a map of the current zoning in the area. You can see the area outlined in red. That's the current property that's being zoned to the CUC3. And then the small portion at the southwest is green. That's being rezoned to the P, public use. These are just some of the bulk standards, and Ms. Johnson had mentioned this, but just to give you some idea of what the CUC3, mainly. The P portion won't be developed, so it's really the CUC3. I think it's important to talk about where we are in the process here. We're very early on in the process. I know this is probably the part that we get most public input on, but this is really one of the first steps of rezoning. Then we go to preliminary subdivision plat. Then the developer generates, assuming this is approved, the rezoning step 1, construction plans, and then subsequent to several reviews, they issue construction. So just kind of want to talk a little bit about the process of how you get from soup to nuts, so to speak. I know we talk a lot about the design and the ultimate use of what should be here, but I really should ask you to bring back, and I know I'll talk a little bit about the design. We always do. But really, when we talk about the zoning map approval process, we're talking about 5 criteria in the zoning code. Consistency with the comprehensive plan, I would agree. The current use doesn't achieve consistency with the current flex commercial land use, so that's why there's a land use amendment. B is compatibility with nearby zoning, compatibility with the established character, and the extent to which amendment promotes public health, safety, and welfare, and the extent to which the amendment creates nonconformities. And again, I know we'll talk a bit about the design, but that's really the criteria that the Planning Commission and the City Council should look at when judging this application. I also think you need to give due consideration to the fact that the property is zoned industrial. A lot of times when we look at development proposals, it's zoned interim development, it's a piece of agricultural land, and you're just looking at a piece of green land that was been farmed for several years, and it's being rezoned to something else. The Mecca Farm was case in point. It's zoned interim development. It was just a green field, and they were asking to change it from basically open space, essentially farm, to something else. This has a development right of industrial, and they are asking to change it to something that is what we consider in the zoning world less intense. I get that some people might not like it, but this property does have a development right for industrial development. Just to give you some idea, I did some comparisons. This is the J.M. Swank property over on Herky Drive. Overall, the property is 13.94 acres. But there's a portion of the property that's undeveloped, so that green area is 10.2 acres. That's a 120,000 square foot building on that 10.2 acres. To the right is the Maytag building at 720, obviously a much larger building, much larger site, but I scaled it to what could be in line with the size of the subject property, and when I scale it, I get a little over 139,000 square feet. I feel comfortable that something of 120,000 square feet of industrial development could be developed here. I think we also have to think in mind of some of the uses that would be permitted in the industrial district, like fueling stations, heavy retail, industrial uses, industrial light, industrial design, self-storage facilities, vehicle rental, heavy vehicle repair, warehousing, and wholesaling are the uses that are permitted without any special approvals other than site plan approval. As been noted, the comprehensive plan designation for the majority of the property is commercial industrial flex, which is the darker red color, and then the small area that's green is the public open space. The small area that's the public open space is the Muddy Creek, and that's being rezoned to public. I don't think anybody has a problem with that, so I won't spend too much time on that. However, the property that's the darker red is the commercial industrial flex. And so the current zoning, which is industrial, is consistent with the land use currently. And that's why I say this property has a development right to develop as industrial because the zoning is consistent with the future land use map. So in order to rectify that, the developer is requesting a land use amendment to urban high intensity. This is the current concept on the left, 354 multifamily units. It's about a little under 35 units to the acre. On the right is a concept that was presented at the July Good Neighbor meeting. We had a very well-attended meeting. At that time, it was 426 units, higher density. Subsequent to that meeting, the density was lowered a little bit, and you can see those two arrows, those two central buildings were moved to a little bit to a west to really try and lessen the impact to the neighbors to the east. We don't have any objections that I'm aware of to the property owners to the west or north. Again, there's just a little bit closer look. I can come back to those. Again, at that Good Neighbor meeting, it was very well attended. I think there was approximately 30, 35 people. We filled up the 4191 training room. Throughout this process, I appreciate that people have been respectful to the process and voiced differences of opinion, which we welcome. Currently in your packet, we have 1 letter in favor and 9 letters opposed. And these are kind of some of the things that we talked about of objections. And again, I just want to quickly go through some of those standards that you should be judging this zoning on. Again, and I think Councilor Wason corrected me that this might actually be before the 1980s, but this is a historical photograph of North Liberty. Really, for a very long time, Old Town was really the development that we had in town. And then you can start to see areas south started to develop residentially. And really, those are the first areas that kind of developed outside of the Old Town. And you start to see some areas that I circled in purple. Those are some industrial areas. And I just wanted to highlight this because really at the time of those developments, those industrial areas, they were on the outside of town. We literally had to cross the railroad tracks to get to the subject property, which was starting to become kind of an industrial development. So it really was kind of away from the Old Town of the residential development. I looked at past comprehensive plans in 1982. Again, this is kind of at the edge of town. It was designated commercial and industrial. In 1988, commercial. In 2005, now as we started to have some more development that had spread out, we looked at this being residential and commercial. In 2015, it went back to commercial. And then in 2023, we designated it with the commercial industrial flex. I was part of that comprehensive plan adoption at the time. We were talking about Moxie potentially being a redevelopment of that. We had other investors that were looking at that, and we looked at that as potentially not trying to, designate it residential on the comprehensive plan to really inhibit or prohibit some kind of redevelopment of the property. So that's what we were looking at that time. I think Mr. Shaw had referenced this residential on the southwest corner. This is page 87 of our comprehensive plan. And it does show a small area of residential on the southwest part. But it's important to note that this development concept contemplates the property being developed as industrial. And this was just kind of give you some ideas of how things could be developed. But overall, it wasn't saying, hey, the property should be designated as or developed as low density residential. This was just saying, hey, there's a small area over here that could be developed residential to get decision makers to think a little of what could be possible could be possible there. I've drawn this box around, and I really believe if this development proposal were on the east side of the railroad tracks, it wouldn't be appropriate. I think the way the city's developed, and if you look at this red box, you really see almost this entire area with the exception of some properties along Zeller, the subject property in the community center and the area along Muddy Creek. It's all designated urban high intensity. And really that's the character of the area. And you really see it when you're out there. When you cross over the railroad tracks to the east into Old Town, the character changes dramatically as you go east. I mean, really let me see if I've got this. In 1990, the road still continued as a gravel road past. It was in 1993, I believe, that the extension of Cherry in its modern form, where it shows curving up, happened in 1993. And that's when you started to see more of a contemporary development pattern. And so I really think the railroad tracks is a logical boundary of what would be traditional development with Old Town. And if you go to the west side of the tracks, more of a contemporary development style that you see in our city. And it's okay to have both. And there are boundaries in urban settings, and not everything is perfect, from a transition standpoint, downtown, down to 4 stories, down to 3 stories, down to 2 stories, down to 1. It just, So it is staff's opinion that the UHI designation would be much more appropriate here than the flex. Again, this industrial zoning is meant to be, more than any other land use, is meant to be separated from other uses. Commercial and residential land uses can be close by each other because residential uses rely on those commercial services. You go shop to those places. You want them in close by. Hopefully you can walk or ride your bike to them. Industrial uses tend to be on larger pieces of property. They tend to generate smoke, noise. They tend to be loud and things like that. And so you typically want those separated from residential uses. And And that's why the industrial development over on the west side of the interstate makes perfect sense. And we hope one day to be able to expand and further that type of development over there. It makes perfect sense. It doesn't make sense from the city's perspective, city staff's perspective, that this area remain in industrial development. It just doesn't make sense. And I'll touch a little bit on compatibility and established character. And I know in the industrial zoning currently, its maximum building height is 45 feet, and it's much higher in the C3. We'll talk about that in a second. But the way we measure height in the zoning code, 45 doesn't necessarily mean 45. 45 is measured from the grade up to the midpoint of the eaves to the top of the roof. So it's basically in the middle. So in an example here, I've drawn what would be a 120,000 square foot building that is 60 feet high. That's what, if you measure to the midpoint of a building like that, that's the type of height that you could be, and it would be considered by zoning to be 45 feet in height. Here's an example that the developer is looking to build in this. As the example of the east elevation would face the Old Town residence, and the grade kind of comes up. I'll talk about this in a second. But you can see the elevation of level 1. Most of the garage is buried at this point. And so the top of the parapet is about 47 feet, 4 inches because the grade is buried. And then as you go to the other elevation where the grade drops, that's where the entry is to the garage. And the elevation, because it's negative 11, is more in that 57 foot. So it's based on the design that we're hearing so far. It's well designed to try and lessen that impact to the property owners to the east. Even so, what we recommended in Planning Commission is also recommending is that there be a maximum building height of 60 feet measured from grade to the highest point of the top of the roof or top of the very top of the gable roof. That way you could do 60 feet and that's it. And so that is being recommended as a condition for the zoning. And the applicant has agreed to that condition. Here's a little bit of a profile that I've drawn that just kind of shows where that grade change. If you go to the east, that's the east right-of-way line of Stewart Street. You can see where you get across the railroad tracks. And then to the very west is the Muddy Creek. So you can kind of see where that grade drops. And you can kind of see it as you're out there. This is the view from where the bike path is. You can kind of see where that grade kind of ramps up a little bit. Again, these are just things that it's not dramatic, but it does lessen the impact as viewed from the east. Also looked at kind of what the views people would see. So this is on Stewart Street, looking north, and this is adjacent to the intersection of Zeller Street. There's a large amount of vegetation through there. I acknowledge that it's on the Crandick Railroad site, and if Crandick wanted to take it down, they could, but there is a pretty good buffer through there. Again, this is at the opposite end towards Cherry, looking south. We asked the developer to kind of provide some renderings to show what those impacts would be. So these, you can kind of see the arrow kind of on the east side of Stewart looking west. And then a couple more showing what those impacts would be. It's not, it's not super dramatic is at least the way I'm viewing it. And again, when you talk about the 60-foot right away from Stewart, plus the Crandick Railroad, and then the development, you've got a much larger setback than I think you would normally get. And again, I go back to, from a zoning compatibility standpoint, this red line is kind of this line of what I would say is contemporary development versus traditional development. Again, reiterate that this type of development, I don't think could be compatible with the Old Town. I think Old Town is more of a two-story type development, whether commercial or residential. So it is staff's opinion that the request would be compatible with nearby zoning and established neighborhood character. Again, the Crandick Railroad is a logical geographical boundary, in my opinion. In 2020, the city created community branding and visioning of North Liberty. This was adopted by City Council. And one of the ideas was to look at Cherry Street as a unique place in North Liberty as a vibrant, mixed-use, pedestrian-oriented district. You need these types of densities to make things walkable. It's not a necessary that you have to have it, but with more people, you're creating an environment where people are able to walk to places like the community center, to the bike trails, to the shopping that's already centrally located. The extent to which the amendment promotes public health and safety, it's staff's opinion that it would promote public health and safety. That's what zoning does. And again, this wouldn't create any nonconformities. It's more likely relieving any nonconformities that are currently on the site. I think one of the things we heard about is why would we have density in this location? You know, this would be great just as long as we're way over there, not located so close to us. You know, the idea is that you kind of look at this radius here and all the services that we have grocery, you've got Walgreens, you've got healthcare, you've got parks, you've got bike trails. You're trying to put types of density in places that people can walk and bike to. And this is a radius that shows like a 10-minute walk or a 5-minute bike ride. They're totally accessible. And then when you have these types of things, people are less reliant on getting in their car and having to drive somewhere. They can walk to places or bike to places and get them, which reduces the amount of car traffic. I just did a quick analysis of the Emery Place, and you know, just to give you an idea, similar number of units, but this is 17 acres on the right, or on both of these. But just the amount of surface parking that was required, this development was a little over 10 acres. This was 17, just to give you an idea of the impact of that type of parking. I know we talked a little bit about traffic, but really the most recent traffic counts we have are on Cherry Street is 2022. That's 4,600 on Cherry Street and 4,290 on Zeller. I asked our friends at the Metropolitan Planning Organization what the maximum acceptable volume, that's the maximum number of cars on that street would be. Their opinion was 13,000 cars. So we're at, you know, a third of what that could be. Just a quick analysis. When you do multifamily, the number of car trips per day is less because you're less reliant on driving. And you also tend to have less number of people in your household than you would for a single family home. And so 354, that's average rate of 4.54. That's 1,600 car trips today. And then you split that between Cherry and Zeller. I did a AM and PM peak analysis, but it's my opinion that the impact is not very dramatic at all. I don't think it's going to cause a deficiency or anything like that. I think Councilor Siddick had asked me, you know, did we require a traffic study on Sunset Prairie? We did, but that was primarily what we would call kind of a single family, where your average rate is about 9.5 per unit, and all of those car traffic trips were coming out to Dubuque Street, and we weren't concerned with so much if Dubuque could handle the amount of traffic. We were concerned if they needed turn lanes at that main entrance. So that's why we required it there. Let's see. Just quickly on stormwater detention, I know it was mentioned, and we heard it throughout the process, but you know, you have to realize that the current development was developed before we had any stormwater requirements at all. And so the part that is impervious just sheet flows right into the Muddy Creek without any pretreatment or anything like that. As developed into a modern development, they will require treatment, so the stormwater will go into a pond and then it's released into that pond. So I think it's important to note that. I think the notion that Muddy Creek does flood, that the entire trail is in the 100-year floodplain. So that is a floodable area during a flooding event. But we expect the development will improve the situation there, not exasperate it. The Planning Commission did have 2 findings. One was that the future land use map change would achieve consistency with the comprehensive plan and its policies, and that the rezoning request to C3, 2P and CUC3 would achieve consistency with approval standards in the zoning ordinance. And the Zoning Planning Commission on October 7th did unanimously recommend approval of the request as presented, subject to the one condition that I mentioned of the 60-foot building height. Apologies for taking entirely too long on that.
It's all helpful, Russ. Thank you. It's all helpful. Thank you. Are there any questions for Russ before I move on? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to.
I had one, but I couldn't.
No, just for here. We're all done out there. Thank you. I'm going to move on to item C, which is applicant present.
It slipped my mind, so sorry.
Okay. You don't have it.
The question slipped my mind. I
Okay.
had one just like 30 seconds ago.
Okay, I'll talk slowly. Item C is applicant presentation.
Brandon Pratt, I'm with Lion Development Group. Appreciate the opportunity to stand here in front of everybody. Don't have a presentation, but happy to answer any questions that anyone would have. Thanks.
I do have two questions, and maybe it's Russ or Brandon. Can you tell us about the fire truck access? It was a point made, but we don't oftentimes not really allowed to interact. We don't do the interaction during public comment, public hearing times. Can either of you address the fire safety concern?
Yes, so our fire department has been reviewing these concept plans throughout their development. And so the concept plan that you show, although preliminary, has been reviewed by our fire department staff and achieves. Really, it's about, they have the trucks to serve the building. It's really about the access around it. So as long as the fire trucks are able to get the required access around it, they can protect the building. Does that sound about right, Brandon?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add other than it was a point of conversation, and we definitely designed the site plan with that in mind and with the approval of the fire chief.
So the fire department signed off on this?
Yeah, and you also have to note that this is a conceptual plan. Subsequent site plans will need to go through a full rigorous review to achieve consistency with all of our ordinances.
For life safety stuff, I mean, there's nothing that goes through for a final approval that doesn't get approved by the fire marshal as satisfying fire code and all of our own city code requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, we talked about Muddy Creek and runoff. Is it part of the plan to put the majority of that underground or through a culvert system?
So there are two surface area ponds. You can kind of see them along the west side of those horizontal buildings. So they'll be piped in locations to those ponds, be treated and then filled up and eventually overflow into the Muddy Creek.
What are those designed to hold? Or will they be designed to hold?
The only thing I could answer is to achieve consistency with our required code.
Right.
Yeah. So we just haven't gotten so far into that right now just because we're at the preliminary stage.
I did remember my question.
Fire away.
For staff, I guess my question is, what is the ability of the council to limit what goes in here if we rezone tonight?
Grant, can I defer to you on that?
The ability to limit it.
Yeah, I mean, assuming that they bring in a plan, a site plan or a final plat or whatever that conforms with the zoning, are we able to? What are we able to do?
So the council has a lot more discretion on zoning, generally speaking, as far as whether we like this kind of thing here or not, whether it satisfies your obligations to look out for the health, safety, and welfare of the community and so on. The specific things that go on there are going to be controlled by the zoning code. So this kind of use and our use table, if it fits into a permitted area, your ability to restrict this kind of building but not that kind of building is relatively limited. It's going to be what our code allows within those things. So all the charts that Russ puts in front of you, they actually mean something as far as what goes, what can and can't go there. So I don't want to. I would have to. I don't have a better answer for you than it's more limited on site plan approval. As long as it satisfies our code, then there would have to be some other reason why you wouldn't approve it.
And that's the reason we're concerned about this being zoned industrial currently, right?
Exactly. So if someone came in here with an industrial site plan today and it satisfied our code, you would have a really tough time saying no to that, and without being deemed arbitrary and capricious and having the refusal overturned. So a 120,000 square foot factory, though it seems improbable, is possible there today, and that is. Why I think staff is suggesting that rezoning is of significant urgency. Whether rezoning to this is appropriate is the question that's before you tonight.
And as I know that the state legislature has limited how we are able to regulate design. Does that apply to this development?
No, just because these are, right, it's a 12-plex, residential 12-plex or less. And so you'd have less opportunity to regulate design if it were, say, a townhouse development. But this, we entirely can really regulate the design.
And we have design standards in place for something like this?
We do.
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, so the state recently amended the Iowa State Code that limits the city's ability to regulate the exterior cladding on residential structures that are a 12-plex or less. Even though we have them in some places in our zoning ordinance, we are not able to enforce them. If you are over a 12-plex, in this case, these are much higher residential density, we are allowed. There's nothing in the state law that says we cannot regulate the design of this. So we have design standards for all commercial district. That's a higher masonry requirement. So that masonry requirement will apply to this entire development.
And to pick up on Eric's point, can this be achieved in the medium intensity district as well? Would those same standards be able to be applied?
As long as the development was, as long as the unit was larger than a 12-plex,
okay,
then yes, we could.
Okay.
There are a couple other weird outliers in state code for things that have a common plan of development. Think of Amana colonies type stuff. If we had a special code section that says only cutesy Smurf houses in this particular, then we could require that. But we don't have anything like that, right? Okay.
From public comment, there seemed to be some concerns about the notification process for feedback. Can you touch on that?
Yeah, so we actually expanded, normally we would do a 200-foot notification radius. So we expanded that to 500 feet. We worked through our community relations department to try and broadcast notification. We recognize that it's not going to be possible to catch everyone, but understanding that we thought this would have broader impacts, we expanded what that notification radius was to try and make more people know about this. And again, we had a pretty good, one of our more well-attended neighborhood meetings, I thought. So I felt like, the outreach was there. But certainly there's going to be people that say, I didn't know about it, and I understand that.
Could someone just briefly just explain what happened with the $20 million agreement, just so we have that in the record tonight?
Sure, I'll take that one. So what I've learned through this project is development is certainly a complicated process with a lot of variables, a lot of challenges. And in this particular case, as you'll recall, the developer, Brandon here, was trying to secure, I'm going to probably get this wrong, it was 13 lots, 9 owners, correct? And so he, obviously with that many different owners and understanding the potential magnitude of this project, he was trying to be discreet about that with those folks until he had them all under contract. And at that point, that's when we brought the proposal. Brandon and his team brought the proposal. We talked about the potential for a forgivable loan agreement for this project. And so that did happen earlier, simply because the way the real-world development process is laid out, it would have been impractical to ask a developer to secure all those lots and then come and try to get some sort of incentive from the city. The developer was asking the city to get on board early so that there was a potential to bring this 20-acre parcel together as one. I don't know if that helps.
And that was on our agenda when it came to the city council.
Yes.
Yeah, it was the public meetings.
Yes.
It was not a rezoning. There was no concept plan necessarily tied to that.
In the initial proposal that was presented, there was a concept plan for the east and west side. Essentially, it was pretty. It was not to this level of detail, of course, and as discussions after that was approved, I think, and I don't mean to speak for Brandon, but I think they were then a little bit more comfortable moving forward, investing money in design concepts at that point, knowing that the city was going to be an investment partner.
And is this concept that we're looking at tonight, is this consistent with what was in that
Yes.
agreement?
Yeah, I would say so. I think I don't recall the specific numbers. I want to say in that document it said a minimum of 354 units or somewhere around there. I can probably find that number in just a second.
That's okay. I guess, and you said the east and west side, so just to clarify, the east side would be this, and the west side would be along Ranshaw Way where BCI and the old shed were.
Correct, and it gets a little confusing because I think we've referred to that piece as central, but yeah, the west part of this development.
And part of that conversation, we talked about how long that parcel has sat and done nothing. We talked about the lack of development interest in that property for what it was. Our discussion up here to enter into that agreement with the developer was the best opportunity, the only opportunity that we've had presented to this council to develop an area of town that has set basically dormant for 2 decades or more. And so, you know, I think all of those points are need to be reminded that this was not a cart before the horse, as it was explained. Quite the contrary.
Yeah, and it probably is worth mentioning, but surprising. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Being able to bring together that many different property owners with varying interests to sell was an uphill climb, to put it mildly.
Right.
Councilor Siddig, to get back to your question about what was in that proposed redevelopment package that was provided by Lion Development, it was a 6-building concept, and they, to quote what they wrote, Class A rentals with approximate unit counts north of 350.
Mayor, I think contextually, and I think I'll add to this and end with this before we go to other comments. We talked extensively in this chamber about the opportunity that we had with a hometown boy. That this development was coming from somebody that was raised here, who went to Penn Elementary, who grew up in this town. And so the statements of, understanding Old Town and what it is, I understand what it is. I've lived here for 20 years. Alan, Artie, Karen, Jenny, Michelle, your comments have not fallen on deaf ears. And I appreciate the professionalism that you've brought from your time with planning and zoning, with the preparation that you put in, with the information that you've given us. For me, those things were taken into account. And I said at multiple meetings as we entered into this largest economic development agreement that this city's ever done, that I would have been uncomfortable in doing so with an out-of-state firm. Didn't want somebody from Minneapolis coming down here and doing this, because there wouldn't have been the trust level that there was with somebody local. And I think that matters, especially in something like this. And when you talk about the level in which this city entered into a very large agreement with this developer. And so there was a lot of those types of conversations and thought that went into what you're seeing presented, and the agreements that the city has entered into with a developer early on. So just wanted to make that known.
I'm going to echo Brent's comments a little bit and more specifically address those folks that did take the opportunity to share their input and perspective. Alan, Artie, where's Karen, Jenny, and Michelle. Really appreciate you taking the lead and representing interest of what you think is for a larger community. And that's exactly what we're doing up here as well, is trying to take the interests of the larger community. I'd also just like to comment, I know, Russ, you put it in your overview, which was very comprehensive and very well done, so I really appreciate that. Those folks that took time to send an email, 9 against and 1 for, whatever the case is. And where we're at with this decision-making process is gathering all of that information. So to echo Brent's comments, it's now lost on us, the leadership and the effort that you've put forth, and that's also what we're trying to decide up here as well. So I just wanted to comment and say thank you for those particular efforts. Brandon, as well with the presentation. It's been a number of presentations and the effort from you and your team. So that's where we're at. And from my seat, Russ, I just made a few notes here just on that I think are worth bringing up again. The historical perspective that you provided was very thought-provoking for me. Some of the factual comparisons, the criteria in which we are required to make our decision, those all go into, from a planning and zoning commission support, all of that information goes into how we reach this decision. And I just want to make sure that we acknowledge all of those things before we move forward with the vote. So I just want to say thank you, and that's where I'm coming in from, is all of the perspective, the data, the facts, the information, the overview before deciding. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Brian. And I also would like to thank everybody for coming and speaking and sending stuff. And we do read that. And I watched the hour-and-a-half meeting again, and I have my little pack that I kept because somebody took the time to make it for us and stuff. Maybe many of you don't know, but when I got on city council, it was because we had a big rezoning across the street from my house. And I had a cornfield in front of my house for years and years and years. So it is now full of houses. So, but we did the same thing. We went through everything, and it's better because of that from what originally was proposed. So your efforts are not wasted by any means. So I think that, looking at all of these things, we can disagree with some of these things. I know that since I've been on the council, when the comprehensive plan doesn't make exactly what you need it to do, you change the plan. And we've done that several times, which is what has to be done here first. And then you move on to the rezoning. and stuff. Again, this is like the rezoning, and then this is what you can put here. And then the final, how it looks and everything is still way down the road. And worrying about where your stormwater goes and everything, those are all things that they have to provide to the city, and we have to sign off on from the engineers to say that this meets this. Traffic's always a little hard to figure out what to do with, but I think that based on the numbers that we have, it will be busy 2 times a day, just like it is in front of my house now, which is now going out to the interstate. So I again appreciate that, but I think that I don't like to say have go to work early or whatever, but it'll get it's not, you have to get used to it. It's not good and stuff, and it's going to be a problem. What we will have to do, though, is make sure that those crossings of the street are well lit, and I have some like signalage or signage that people can put in there. So if they want to cross the street there, we're going to have to really look into that, and the staff will have to look at that when we get that far down the road. So, but again, really appreciate you coming and expressing everything.
I guess real quick, I realize this is, a work in progress. It's not, what we see isn't necessarily what's going to happen. Maybe down as part of this process, I respect the old neighborhood, coming up against the new neighborhood. And so I know you've answered some of these questions already. I appreciate that. I'd like to see, on the railroad easement, they do have some trees there, which I think creates a good, boundary between that. We don't control those. So, I know there might be a water main issue, perhaps with, planting more trees there to sort of create a separation, at some point between the old neighborhood, and what's being proposed in the new development. Again, I can bring that up, later, but I did want to, just put that out there as hopefully a possibility to, beautify the area and help, make sure that kind of barrier would stay there between the old neighborhood and what's coming.
Well, and Mayor, with the railroad, if you go north of town, it's a rail parking lot, which I absolutely despise. And we've tried, and we've called, and we've had the conversations, and we have complained, and we've done everything that we can, and there is nothing that we can do about it. Granted, could park rail cars all the way through town. When I lived on Vandello Circle years ago, as that was being developed, they were parking railroad cars behind my house. And we complained, and there's absolutely nothing that the city can do. I hope that relationship improves, but it's not just us. It's been the county. It's been other cities that, have found it hard and difficult to work, with the railroad. We will continue to do so when we talk about beautification or trees or buffers or things like that. But I just want to put that out there. That is far away from a guarantee, because we've tried many things to work with the railroad, and it hasn't been successful in the past.
I had a professor that said you could teach the first year of law school exclusively with train-related cases.
I bet.
Okay, thank you all for your questions and comments. I think it's important to recognize where we are in this process right now. Rezoning is really, really important, and as we've heard, this is the biggest thing that we have some control over. There are 2 things in front of us. The first of which is a resolution simply to change the comprehensive plan or to amend it in there. The next one is going to be contemplating moving this to a CUC3, high-intensity commercial district. And I think it's important to recognize that these are ways in which we can move forward, and what is being presented to us is not necessarily the only way. Personally, I'm a little bit more interested in some less density in there, and the medium might help us allow that. The CUC3 allows us some flexibility in that way as well. While I'm not entirely excited about this density in there, I'm hoping that we may be able to make some adjustments. this doesn't require this development specifically, and this zoning gives us an opportunity to take it out of industrial, and it gives us an opportunity to restrict those uses that we really, really don't want to have in that space. So I'm going to move on to item D, which is resolution number 2025-122. This is a resolution amending the 2022 North Liberty Comprehensive Plan connected to tomorrow future land use map for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa, from commercial industrial flex to urban high intensity. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Leibold. Are there any further questions?
No further questions necessarily, and I just want to say that I did not have an opportunity to participate in the discussions of this early on because of professional obligations. I was conflicted out. I am aware of the difficulties of the location on Ranshaw Way from personal experience, and being able to have that tied up, being able to do something with that area is a big deal. And that wouldn't have happened without putting all of this together. I'm not sold necessarily on the concept that's been presented, but having this as part of that whole package, I have very little doubt in my mind that the zoning proposed is appropriate. But I just wanted to make those comments.
Appreciate that, Eric. Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions? Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Sittig.
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item E is first consideration of ordinance number 2025-22, and this is an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa, from I-1 Light Industrial District to CU C3 Central Urban High Intensity Commercial District and P Public District. Could I have a motion for this first consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Park, seconded by Sittig. Are there any additional comments?
Mayor,
Just one question. So this includes the 60.
yeah,
Yes, that's included in the ordinance.
okay, same question. Thanks, Mayor.
Great cover. Thank you, guys. Anything else? Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Park.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. I'll pause the city council meeting if anyone wishes to leave, to as not disrupt future business that we have to conduct. So I'll take a moment, hit recess. I'll move to item 11, which is special speed zone ordinance, and item A is public hearing regarding proposed updates to the special speed zone ordinance. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to make comment on these speed zone changes? Seeing none, I'll move to item B, which is first consideration of ordinance number 2025-23, and this is an ordinance amending Chapter 62 of the North Liberty Code of Ordinances concerning special speed zones. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
By Wason, second by Sittig.
Leibold.
Leibold. Any questions? Pretty straightforward in the packet. Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Smith.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 12 is floodplain ordinance, and item A is a public hearing regarding the floodplain ordinance. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to make comment on this?
Actually, I was trying to understand a lot of it. I want to understand how this changes what we currently have, going forward. And it seemed to express a responsibility for the city with some language that led to the fact that you need to protect the citizens with this floodplain adherence. I mean, that's the way I read it. So I guess I want to understand. I think that it's important to remember that this particular area that we've just been discussing is in the floodplain, and that we're looking at underground parking, and it really addresses that too. Now, I don't have a legal degree, as Grant does, so I just want to understand how this all comes together and what our new responsibilities are under this particular ruling that the state is implying that we need to amend.
That's a great question, Artie. It's one we actually asked Russ as well. So could you repeat the answer that you provided to us this afternoon?
So the map on the right, even though it's a thinner line, this is a proposed map. And so the FEMA had gone through a new analysis of determining where our floodplain locations were. And the map on the left is our existing 100-year floodplains. It's hard to see again because just the way the map is, but these the shapes are similar. So you have the Muddy Creek corridor from north to south. And then on the far west side, you have the Buffalo Creek corridor. And those are the two main areas that are in our floodplain. So along with adopting this new map, we have to make sure we are in compliance with state and federal laws. This ordinance achieves consistency with that. The ordinance doesn't prevent people from developing in the floodplain. It just provides regulations by which they can develop in the floodplain. And if I understand correctly, compliance with this provides for better insurance rates for our community.
I would just add additionally that a lot of this language is boilerplate. Oh, sorry.
Almost all of it is boilerplate, yeah. I'm sorry, I'm going to steal your
No,
thunder.
go ahead.
But yeah, in years past, we'd had a zoning overlay district of a floodplain. This is a recalibration of that, so it's its own separate chapter, which we're moving away from zoning map overlays and just adopting this map as the floodplain. And in so doing, it has the same, many of the same, well, almost all the same requirements. And rather than having a zoning Board of Adjustment to look at appeals that we would have, this is going to be handled more like a building code thing, as how are you building things in the floodplain, and then those would be handled by the Building Code Board of Appeals rather than the Zoning Board of Adjustment. But all the same protections that are required by FEMA, by the DNR, are all there, it's not a substantive thing, but this is more of a continuity of operations type deal.
And you still have the authority to elevate if you're in a floodplain, and several properties along the Muddy Creek have elevated to take themselves out of the floodplain, and we call that a letter of map amendment. We expect UCD to do that on some aspects, but that authority will still be allowed, that you can bring in fill, bring up your property so you're outside of that floodplain so you're not subject to those regulations.
Is it, are we 1 foot above, the 100-year?
I believe that's the case, yes.
Okay.
So no new requirements for.
No, this doesn't expand the city's authority at all.
Yeah.
Does it increase the city's responsibility to protect the citizens who are considering that area?
No, I mean, FEMA comes out with a new map every so often, and this is sorry, I shouldn't, but I'll speak directly anyway.
You're the lawyer.
Yeah, no, this is, we have a continuing obligation to provide, to designate flood zone areas, and that allows us, it lowers insurance rates for folks by designating where those are, and then it allows recovery under emergency recovery for FEMA funds if those are needed. So this is all tied together. This is one where staff just says, we want to pass this in order to continue compliance. There's no new burdens on anybody. There's no new obligations.
So you currently have burdens to protect people from. It did have some very specific wordage about how the city is required to protect people who are thinking about, you know what I mean? And it also
And
spoke to
passing
underground.
this ordinance does that.
It protects you, but.
Protects the people that are, yeah.
The people, and how does it protect?
I think,
this is-
let me interrupt you. I think it would
I'm
be.
confused.
It'd be most helpful if you could cite, and maybe meet with us, come in and meet with us to talk about this.
I'm sorry, I thought.
Well, we don't know what language that you're referring to, so if we knew what code section you're talking about specifically, we can have that conversation offline.
Great, we can. I was only reading the documents that you included in your packet.
Sure, and that's about a
the only
20-page
ones I have.
document, so that's what.
Pardon me?
It's about a 20-page document or so, so we need to,
Yeah, about,
it would be helpful to have what specific
right.
section
Okay.
you're talking about.
Yeah, like half of it is describing terms, though, so it really
You're right,
wasn't
there's
that
a lot
long
of
of a
definitions in
document.
there. Yeah.
And I think, Artie, what I learned in this process is that it's just, it's something that we're already doing. And this is a shift in how it's accomplished. So the protections are already there, and they will continue to be. It's just a different process by which we need to do that, more closely regulated. And as both Grant and Ryan said in the beginning, it's kind of a boilerplate ordinance that cities need to follow. So there's not a lot of substantive change that we're making in it at all, quite frankly. So
Explain the term boilerplate.
the language in the document is the same in every city.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. I'll close the public hearing and move on to item B, which is first consideration of ordinance number 2025-24. And this is an ordinance amending the North Liberty Code of Ordinances by creating Chapter 160 entitled Floodplain Management. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Siddick, seconded by Leibold. Are there any additional comments? Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Siddick,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 13 is Liberty Commons, and this is resolution number 2025-123, a resolution approving supporting documents and final plat for Liberty Commons subdivision, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
I'll move that, Mayor.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Wason. Any additional comments? Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Siddick,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 14 is Forever Green Estates Part 2, and this is resolution number 2025-124, a resolution approving the off-site utility easement, surety agreement, and the amended stormwater maintenance facilities agreement for Forever Green Estates Part 2 subdivision, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Park, seconded by Wason. Any comments, questions? Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Smith,
Aye.
Siddick,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Park,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 15 is Buck Moon Villas. This is resolution number 2025-125, a resolution accepting public improvements and releasing surety for Buck Moon Villas in North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Wason. Any questions? Tracy, roll call, please.
Siddick,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And item 16 is SRF Water Revenue Planning and Design Loan. Item A is resolution number 2025-126, and this is a resolution approving the engagement letter between the City of North Liberty and Dorsey and Whitney LLP regarding bond counsel services for 2025-2028 our SRF Water System Improvements Project. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Siddick, seconded by Wason. Any questions about that? Tracy, roll call, please.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Siddick,
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And item B is resolution number 2025-127. This is a resolution to fix a date for public hearing on proposal to enter into a water revenue loan and disbursement agreement and to borrow money thereunder in a principal amount not to exceed $1,144,500. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Park, seconded by Wason. Comments?
Sorry. So this will most likely get wrapped up into the ultimate loan that we end up.
In the construction loan, yes. So what we're doing here is we approved a design contract a few meetings ago with Strand and Associates for the first phase of the water improvements project, which includes drilling 2 new wells, some raw water line, and converting the ASR well into a traditional production well. And this particular note with or loan with SRF allows us to borrow for design at no interest, and then as the construction project starts, we'll wrap this into a construction loan. Ultimately, then amortizing it when the construction is completed.
And that the SRF loans are pretty decent loans, right?
What do you mean by decent?
I mean, they're advantageous.
Absolutely, yeah. Their interest rate is generally much lower than what we could get, and there's ample money within the funds that the state has. So, yes, it's a good deal for the city. It's a decent deal.
Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Sittig.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. And item 17 is climate plan. Item A is resolution number 2025-128, a resolution approving the technical services proposal for city operations climate action plan between the East Central Iowa Council of Governments and the city of North Liberty. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Sittig, seconded by Leibold. Any questions or comments? Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Wason.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 18 then is Mickelson fourth rezoning, and this is our second consideration of ordinance number 2025-21, an ordinance amending the zoning map district designation for certain property located in North Liberty, Iowa from RS6 single unit residence district to RD10 2 unit residence district, and from RD10 2 unit residence district to RS6 single unit residence district. Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Park. Any comments?
Just sorry to the engineer.
Tracy, could I have roll call, please?
Leibold.
Aye.
Sittig.
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Park.
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Item 19 is old business. Anything? Bring back up. Item 20 is new business.
If I could just invite everyone to a ribbon cutting. It's called the Giving Machine, and it's going to be a vending machine over the holidays. It's going to be put in the Target entrance of Coral Ridge Mall. They're doing a ribbon cutting for that. Basically, you get to decide, which charity, a vending machine full of charities, and you get to decide which one and donate to that charity right there. It's a pretty cool deal. Should be a cool event, and that is on November 20th at 9 a.m. at the Coral Ridge Mall, if you can make it.
If you go to Giving Machine, or just search it, internet search, you'll find it also.
Google, yes.
Great.
Or AI these days.
Yes.
Chat GPT.
Anything else? Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Seconded by Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you all.